Okay, so this is the Attackers Chronicle, and I've got a special guest today. I've got Kevin. So Kevin was scheduled to join us. He was one of the participants. He was actually the participant that Craig took his place. So welcome, Kevin. What have you been up to in the meantime? Like, what's been going on for you?
Oh no, thanks for that, Jeff. No, things have been good. Just been focused on a lot of work stuff in terms of like content and my other job that I have as well. So just been trying to keep myself busy. Not too much going on, like not too much exciting stuff and whatnot. Just been working a lot with like content stuff. Have a lot of fun with life, enjoying life as well. So other than that, yeah, no, just getting after it, man. So yeah.
No, it's good to hear. And so people might be wondering like why you were chosen to be a part of it. And in the comments, I'm like, people are still asking where you are. Like it's crazy, even though we've explained it several times. But yeah, I picked Kev. Like it was funny. I was at a basketball game, and I just want to stipulate that this is for Penrith football, not Penrith basketball. I won't be wearing a Penrith basketball jersey. Let's just get that clear. But I was at a game watching some friends play, and I saw you over there, and I was like, because some of the criteria is you need a following, which Kev's got a really big following on TikTok and Instagram and other things, and I just you happen to be there with Nick, and I looked across, and it was like a light bulb struck me, and I was like, Kev, of course. And one thing about Kev, like there was a call for having someone who's big and athletic. And I'm just going to blow a little bit of smoke up Kev's ass here. Like I've played A grade basketball for probably 30 years. I was forcefully retired. And in that time, like Kev was probably one person who was a massive, massive problem. Because not only is he big, he's fast, he's strong. Like, I could compete with most people even as I got older. But as soon as I saw Kev, I was like, oh shit, this is not going to be a good night. And so I
Oh
figured,
man.
that athleticism and all those things and size would carry over into the series. And, many people were asking, how does a big athletic person go? And I just thought you were the perfect person for that. And so, unfortunately, yeah, you got injured just before it started. So, yeah, what happened?
Yeah, no. So I was just playing pickup basketball actually.
Yeah,
And I kind of like hurt myself while I was playing. I was going up for a rebound, and I kind of came down a bit funny, and it was just a nightmare. Like I tried to like manage through it, and then I was like, oh, I don't know if I can compete with
yeah,
that caliber of athletes. So this isn't like I've watched the show. Like I love the show, by the way. Like I
yeah,
loved how
cool.
it turned out. With that caliber of athletes, like worldwide athletes like that, like yeah, I wouldn't have been able to give my 100, like my
Yeah,
full performance there in that sense because yeah, no, which is unfortunate, but I did watch episodes and stuff like that, and I really like what I saw too, which
yeah,
was kind of hurt me a bit more that I wasn't part of it, but what can you do?
yeah,
Hopefully for the next one. So yeah,
yeah. Because like all those the events, like particularly the first one, the hide and go stab, where you're running out of the building and jumping over stuff. Just when you first told me that you had to get X-rayed, I was like, oh, even if it's not fractured, like it's going to be tough to do those things. And yeah, I guess in the end, yeah, what happened happened, and these things happen, and yeah, it was unfortunate. It would have been great to see you, and there's still a big calling for you to enter it and things. They want another big athlete, but we'll see what happens in future. But I'll roll the tape and we can talk through it.
hmm
So yeah, what do you think of Craig? So Craig was your replacement. Now, one thing I want to say about Craig, you could be Craig. Like looking at your videos and your TikToks, how you do your Aussie girlfriend's dad. I mean, you
oh yeah,
sound exactly like Craig.
does he actually
Uh,
sound like that?
minus the racism, but yeah, the rest of the stuff, like the real Aussie stuff, like yeah, sounds so much
Yeah,
like him. And yeah, it was cool. But like, yeah, like I was saying, like running through this building and jumping over things, like we saw how Jordan got hurt, tripped over. Like doing
yeah,
that with a fractured foot or even an injured foot would have been tough. So yeah, common sense had to prevail. Like the guys got to do some sightseeing, that was good. But while that was happening, this is when Rokus, like, it was such a relief to have Rokus come back. But I'll pause it there for a sec. Doing it without Rokus was tough. My
yeah,
workload increased because of it. When he came back, it was such a relief for me. Like I felt the stress relieve. Whereas these guys, after this conversation, the opposite happened. So this is where it got real. So they went sightseeing. Rokus and I sat there and our panel, and we went through all the videos. Like we didn't have all the camera angles and things like that, but we went through and we did the judging, and it was, I'm not saying it was rushed, but we had limited time to do it. And this was the moment when we basically told them, the scores and who was in the lead. And she just got real at that moment. You could see everyone's faces change, and it
Mm.
just got really serious, and you could cut the atmosphere with a knife because there was tension all around. And the discussions and things, we had some discussions about the events, and at that point in time they also told us that they were the opposite for season one. They were saying that it was tough. These guys were saying it's not tough enough, we want some more physical challenges, there was too much non-physical stuff. So I had to sort of think up, what can we do for another scenario? And I was sitting there baffled, like and then it occurred to me. I just thought to myself, like, we had the bar room set up, a lot of effort was put into that bar. One of the biggest complaints, like Craig actually said it, he's like, this is the worst security ever. And at that moment, I was like, hey, why don't we make them security? And no offense, our security guards was Goran and Christian, who
Oh
are
yeah,
two other big basketballers.
yeah,
Um,
right.
but they were in the background. Just I would have to wave to them and say, come over and stop this. And so I let the fight sort of go for a little bit. So it's kind of my fault they were really bad security, but that was, the whole purpose of it. So then we
Yeah.
thought, you know what, we'll flip the script, because the guy said to us that they wanted another scenario, but they didn't want to get punched in the face too much. So it had to be sort of wrestling based, I guess. And then
Mm.
I thought, well, let's just say to them that, I'm the manager of the club. I've gotten into all kinds of trouble over the years because of our poor security, our lack security. So we need some people in with a good skill set to try and nullify it without throwing punches and hurting people. So that was the whole premise of this scenario. And just like I was really happy with what we decided. I ran it by Rokas, and he was like, "Yeah, that sounds great."
Mm.
But the one thing that sort of for me was this part here. Like, that was one of my most proudest moments of what I did in the whole thing, was to get color coded bow ties for them. I just thought, because I've worked security before, I've worked in pubs. The guy that I had on in season one worked in pubs, and we both had to wear bow ties to work in those pubs. That was part of our uniform.
Mm.
And then I thought, like, I went to the shop and I was able to find like a color for everyone, and that was my favorite personal moment. Just I thought the bow ties were just a great touch, the attention to detail, and you've worked security yourself. You currently work security, so
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
No, so I can't say I've worn the bow ties personally, but I have seen security guards wear those bow ties as well, and it adds to like the realism, I'd say, of like the scenario and stuff like that, which is a really nice touch. I had no idea that was wow, no, like I had no idea that was on the go, that idea. So that's a phenomenal thing to add into there, to say the least.
yeah. And it's
Um,
just all those little things all add up. Like I just think, like, the bow tie to me, and it looked really cool, like having them in bow ties. I wish we got a standard photo with everyone with the bow tie, because it was cool.
yeah.
So yeah, and the thing that's caused a bit of controversy here was who teamed up with who. But the way we did it was person coming first teamed up with the person coming six, two and five, three and four. It just makes sense. So there was no other discussion about it. We just went through the rankings, went this one with this one, this one with this one, and that's how it all sort of came about. So,
Mm.
and Jordan here, I thought this would be right up his alley. He's a grappler. He's going through this series trying not to strike, and this was perfect for him. And his strategy was great. So he said from the first scenarios, he realized where the fights took place. So he positioned himself where the fights were. So he was on it in a second.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that
that's
was
that's what I noticed now. Like he was like looking around, walking. And that's the thing with security guards as well. Like you have to be looking around like at all times. Like you want
yeah,
to be seeing like what's happening. You want to be able to tell like what might pop off and what might not. And I think him even just keeping his eyes like peeled, always just like surveying, keeping his head on a swivel was a nice addition. It adds so much realism. Like I'm talking as a security guard to you right now. Like
yeah,
that's what security guards do. That's what we have to do in order to keep things safe in a sense. So seeing that in a scenario like that couldn't have been more well done, really.
yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
I
no,
was impressed with Jordan because he just picked up Adrian. Now, Adrian's a weapon. Adrian is the guy that in
yeah,
season one everyone spoke about. And for him to just to pick him up and carry him out, like Jordan's a unit. That's what he's listed as 70 kilos on the website. He's like 90 something. He's a big boy. And one other thing in all this, like, I'm sort of managing it. There's a guy sitting on the lounge who also assisted. So he was formerly one of the highest ranked police officers, like in terms of he was in that's the guy there with the beer in his hand. He
Oh
was in,
yeah,
he was a SPG trainer, the State Protection Group. So he was one of the guys that if she hit the fan and there were weapons and things involved, he'd be parked in a car with his unit, all geared up with all their assault rifles and things. So he's high level. Like he was one of the top dogs in that game. And so he was there advising us and things like that and helped us with that as well.
mm-hmm.
This was really unfortunate for Jordan. So Jordan has a reoccurring knee issue,
Mm-hmm.
and just in the middle of it, and it didn't seem like a great deal happened. He just went to pick up Adam over near the lounges, and yeah, unfortunately, he must have just twisted in the wrong way that upsets his already hurt knee, and yeah, unfortunately, he limped his way out, but he wanted to finish it. Jeff sort of finished it in solo, and they did really, really well. Um, you know, um, they were by far the best. They did a great job. I like the way how Jeff, like Pooh Man, we had to have Pooh Man come back. Like he's a cult classic. There's quite a few cameos that we always try to get in. Well, like it's my idea to put him in each season,
Yeah.
so we had to have a Pooh Man in there somewhere because it's a problem. Like hopefully you haven't dealt with that insecurity, but I know people that work in mental health. Like I currently work in hospitals now, and this kind of thing is sort of commonplace. So I throw those things in that just to get people thinking on their feet, and to try and problem solve using their brain instead of just throwing people around. That was the name of that as well. So,
No,
but
hundred
yeah,
percent.
yeah. But there's a couple guys that I'll give a shout out to, which is Dave and Leo. They were two of the guys that came out to assist and things like that, and they were really nice people, great people, very supportive of the show. And so, hey Dave, hey Leo, I hope you guys are well. And yeah, it was good to see them on the screen there and make the cut. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. No, I just wanted
Yeah,
to add, like, in terms of the that Pooh Man that was featured in there. Like, I haven't quite seen that insecurity. I mean, touch wood as of yet, but I can imagine, like, with certain, like, hospital, like, hospitals or mental health, like, institutions and stuff like that, that is a common thing. And I think in those situations, as a security guard these days, especially, like, if you can talk and de-escalate things, that is the safest thing that you can do. So I
yeah,
noticed that Jeff was holding the chair, maybe more so to protect himself, but because, like, I can't hear the sound of
yeah,
the video at this moment, but I can tell, like, he's telling him to, like, look, like, walk this way, walk away. That's what
yeah,
the kind of vibe that I'm guessing from
yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm watching
100%.
right now. But which is also like a good, which is shows Jeff's people skills, I guess, in terms of, like, talking
Yeah,
down a situation, calming, de-escalating the situation, and ask them to just move accordingly. And that, and especially in today's game, as a security guard, those are the most important things. Unfortunately, yes, like when it comes to, like, having to hold someone or move someone out, that is necessary. But if you're able to talk the situation down where you don't have to do that at all, it's the safest thing you can do, and it's the best way to go about stuff. So,
yeah,
shout out to
100%.
Jeff for that too. Yeah, shout out to Jeff for
Yeah.
that.
And that's what like I'm teaching self-defense now in hospitals and things, and that's the biggest part of it is the de-escalation. Because like in all honesty, like if I'm honest about it, like in the classes that I have in hospitals with nurses, like and doctors and things, they're caring people that, they're not combative people, they're not aggressive people. They go to help people, and the fact that they get, abused and assaulted and various things is really sad. And I look around the room and I think to myself, you know what, like the truth is, like in fighting and self-defense, you have to be physical, you have to be fit, strong, athletic, and the more you are, the better, the easier it is. And I look around the room and think, geez, if someone lost it, the majority of these people would be in trouble. So therefore, we focus on the soft skills of the de-escalation, the awareness, and things like that. And some of it's showing through in these scenarios. And like you were saying, Jeff was talking the whole time. So Jeff was like consulting with his partner. He was explaining to the people that he was throwing out what he was doing and what he wanted to do. He was giving them clear, concise instructions. And that's why, like, Jeff was number one in this drill. Like, Jeff absolutely killed it. So, yeah, and it's the best way. So,
100%,
so
hundred
these
percent.
two went a bit different. Their response was a little bit different.
Mhm.
So they started off, and the way you sort of deal with this, that our specialist that was there said, you look at the worst things, the things that are happening that are the most severe first. They're the ones you attend to first. So if someone's trying to glass someone or kill them, you go to that person first, and you have to sort of prioritize what you need to go to in what order. And that's really hard to do on the run in all this madness. And obviously, this is an exaggerated moment, where there's 4 or 5 things happening at once. And, you wouldn't have two security in a club like this. But, for the sake of the challenge, we wanted to test them and make things tough and see how they go. And Ranton seemed to love it. He was just jumping at people and tackling people and enjoying it. Nice little sidekick there, Craig. Dropped someone. He was trying to separate the two of them. But their response too, like, and again, what's not to say it's wrong? They resigned. So as soon as Pooh Man came out, Ranton's like, "You're not paying me enough money. I'm out of here." And Craig's like, "Yeah, stuff this. You can have this job. I quit." And that sort of hurt him. Is it a valid response? Absolutely. That's probably what you should do in that situation. But for the sake of the argument, the criteria we were looking at, we wanted them to stay there and resolve the problems instead of leaving. So, that's why they got scored down.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Oh, yeah. No, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I get, I get where they're coming from. Like, as a let's say, as like, if I'm not talking to security, I'm talking as like just a regular. I get where they're coming from. Like, you don't really want to.
yeah,
No one wants to be around like a poo man like that. No one wants to.
no,
But no, like yeah, in those situations, I can tell. Like, look, like you got a job to do. Like, you wanna. The way, like, I'll use Jeff for example. How, like you said, he killed him. I think he did. I think he did too. Those times like that, that's where your people skills and your communicating skills are the most important thing in that situation. That can make and break a situation from escalating to de-escalating. And as much as you
yeah,
don't want to stick with it, you gotta stay there. You gotta you know continue to have the conversation with the person. Continue to de-escalate as much as you can.
yeah,
That means you have to walk backwards in circles for it to de-escalate. I would do that because I haven't dealt with a poo man, but like when it comes to de-escalating situations, same deal. I will try and talk until they eventually do this, like calm down or feel like the situation de-escalated, and then able to move from there. So
yeah. And I think too, that's why you would have success in security as well. Like number one, you're a good communicator. Number two, you're a big unit, so people have to think twice. Like people generally would look at you and go, "Yeah, I'm not starting trouble," and that's where I think female security is good too, because if it was a female security guard, these guys wouldn't shove her back, push her back. It's unlikely. I don't know if you work with any female security staff, but they have a bit of success because, even in amongst of these heightened situations, most guys would not lay hands on a female. Most guys, not every guy, but so that's where, yeah, as you said, communication's key. This was risky. Every time Natan jumped up on something, he does it in another episode.
mhm.
I just got nervous. Hey, like I'm thinking, oh, don't fall, don't fall. And thankfully, Adrian didn't really struggle there because otherwise that could have gone pear shaped. But Natan's very switched on, like in all of it. He was on the money for from day one. He came in and was ready to go. Jesse did great as well. I thought these guys did really well, and I think the biggest factor was I think where Jordan positioned himself,
I
that
like
was
how
genius.
Jesse's using that chair at the moment. To
Yeah.
be
The only problem, this door opens inwards. So the guy was basically stuck there. So yeah, and that was a nice little takedown there by Natan. But the communication of Jesse and the positioning of Jordan is what set them apart from these two. These two were great as well.
honest.
But that was I guess, the clinching factor. I was looking at the communication. That was a big thing for me.
Yeah,
So yeah, and just verbalizing what you're doing so as there's no, shock. And Jeff was yelling out, "He's armed and dangerous," and stuff like that when the poo man came out. Just all those little things all added up. And I thought, yeah, it was far and above the other guys. Not that much above, but it was better. It was better.
yeah. No, like I watched when I watched this initially, I obviously like read a lot about the people performing. Not performing. Competing, I should say. I mean, I knew Adrian from when we were training
Yeah.
at the gym and stuff. But as far as like Jeff, Natan, if I pronounced that correctly,
Yep. Yep. That's right. Yeah.
um, yeah, no, I and Jesse, as much as I can, like with like all the like the athletes and stuff like that. no, these, like I said before, even before we even jumped in this call, these are like phenomenal athletes. These guys have really cultivated the what it means to be a part of this. What's the word I should say? This championship I should say,
Yeah,
and the mixed martial arts that they've been doing for years and years and years. It's I can see it. You can see it evidently in the video,
yeah,
in the episode I should say,
yeah,
which is really really good to see. It's very very action packed. It brings a lot of different um, perspectives of how they would handle things, how they would move about things, and as well with Adrian as well, like seeing him in that as like in the new season, I should say the season I
yeah,
should say.
yeah,
No, all phenomenal. They all did really really phenomenal, which is great to see. So.
yeah. And back to Adrian, he like in his job, he's pretty high up, and at that time of year, it was in November, I believe, and it was close to the end of the year, so he had so much work on that. That was the only night he could actually come in and assist, unfortunately. But the rest of the guys did a great job as well. Now this one kind of flopped a little bit. This was my idea to try and bring in the other element to it. So anything you do in self-defense, you need to be able to justify your actions in the court of law. So the two key words in New South Wales are reasonable and necessary. Are your actions reasonable under the circumstances, and are they necessary for your survival? Now, it's a really grey area. You need to be able to argue those things. And so I thought of the idea of having a courtroom where they have to come in and defend their own actions without a solicitor
Mm.
and justify what they did. The other thing I was originally going to do, because I was the prosecutor, I think is the right term, is I was going to character assassinate them. So I was going to come in and find dirt on them and say, well, there's a video of you doing this. How could you, there's evidence of you being participating in fights previously, you're guilty kind of thing. And as we did it, it kind of just didn't deliver. So Jesse was great. So we filmed Jesse in his entirety. That was hilarious. When Matt got rolled in, Matt did so well. Like he was hilarious. And same with our judge MJ.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically what happened was I was up against Jesse. So I was saying, you're a martial artist, this, that, and the other. You've written books, you play with deadly weapons, it's clear that you love violence, it's your lifestyle. You've just come to that pub and you found an innocent victim to, be violent against, is more or less what I was trying to say. And we were arguing back and forth. And it was quite good. Like Jesse was awesome at it. He was absolutely destroying me in the courtroom. But the thing was, it seemed to take like an hour or something. And I stopped it halfway through. I was like, just can I just stop it for a moment? And I just said, guys, is anyone else here bored? I said, like, I'm bored listening to myself speak, not Jesse, but just myself. And it went for so long. And we asked around and we just thought, you know what, this took an hour. And if we go through every single person, we're going to be here for 5 hours. It was late at night. Um, so we just said, look, we did Jesse's in full and the rest we shortened them up and took them out of the challenge as being, part of it. Like it wasn't a point scoring thing.
Mm.
And, people were funny. Like Ranton was cracking jokes. Natan was funny through it. Matt, I could not stop laughing at Matt. Like I had to walk out halfway through because I couldn't stop laughing. A couple of the guys came out with one-liners and things, but once we said, look, it's getting late, we got to go eat and go back to the house and things like that, we decided to shorten it. So it didn't deliver quite as we were expecting, but you know what? You live and learn from those things, and you try them out. But people can see, and hopefully people get the idea that once you do these actions, you do have to defend yourself in court like this. And it's all good, well and good to be a hero in a bar, but this could change your life. And that was the funny thing. Like everyone was voting not guilty, not guilty. And when it came to Natan at the end, there's a little bit after the credits. Like I said to everyone, okay, everyone here who voted Natan not guilty, who did that because you were scared that you're sitting there across from Natan? Because they were looking at him and they were scared. They were nervous. I'm sitting there. I could just sense that they were too scared to go, yeah, he's guilty. They were kind of looking at him like that. And yeah, a few of them I think voted for him just because they were scared of him. And so that's why I said it. But yeah, it didn't quite deliver, but the message is there. And like I've said before in the past and these things, I'm all about the education. And what I'm trying to get through to people is that, yeah, you got to defend yourself in court afterwards. So think about what you're doing before you throw a punch. Is it the right thing in those circumstances? It is in many circumstances. It's not in all. It's up to the individual to be able to determine that and act accordingly under the circumstances, which is easier said than done when there's potential for you to get hurt. So that's kind of where that went. Yeah, and hopefully people sort of get that side of things. That's my whole thing about it is the education. That's what I'm pushing for. Do you have anything to add to that or anything else you saw?
Yeah, no, of course. Like, the whole idea of like having the, I know you said it like you felt like you guys felt bored, like when that segment was happening, but that couldn't be more real. Like having the courtroom there. Like, I'm talking from a security sense. Like, let's say if something happens and the police are involved, like you have to give a statement, you have to defend your actions. Like that's things like you got to do. Like there's nothing you can't escape. And I can imagine like even being outside, not as a security guard, just as like a regular like person, yeah, those are things that you have to talk about in court. Like you have to like they want to investigate these things. They want to know how this happened, when it started, who's the aggressor in that situation, and what did you do to try? Did you try and de-escalate it? Because sometimes people can. It's a very, like you said, it's a very gray area between defending yourself and
Yeah,
just fighting. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, those are very real things to happen though. Like in all those scenarios that were part of the show, and if there was a camera involved, and if it was actually like real life fighting happening like that, and it went to court, all of them would have to defend their actions, 100%, all of them.
yeah,
So I couldn't be more. It couldn't be a more real thing to add to it. It's a very hard thing to add to like I would say to this kind of like championship, only because I feel like the viewers would probably want to see just more like
yeah,
action and stuff like that, which I get as a viewer sense. However, thinking about it more so in a logical sense, that is, I still think it was a good addition because that is a very real thing to happen. And
yeah,
if you're emulating real life scenarios, that is a real life scenario that comes after that anyway. So,
yeah. And that's what we did last episode. So afterwards, they had to go into a room with a cop and basically say what happened. And I actually wanted them to actually say it. I was trying to avoid them saying, "Speak to my lawyer," because I know that a friend of mine who's a cop investigated a domestic violence incident where it was the guy getting beaten up by the girl. And when they came to interview the guy, they were like, "Oh, are you okay?" Yeah, of course I'm okay. Nothing wrong with me. I could beat her. And then straight away, bang, it was thrown out at that point because of his ego and that, being macho and not scared, instead of actually stating, "Hey, yeah, I've been abused by this person for X amount of time." Just what he said in that moment threw his whole case out the window. So when he did go to court, that was the response they read, and the guy lost the case. So that's what we tried to hit home with that. Like I said, just trying to educate people and show them that side of things. It's not all crash and bash. There's a little bit of a thinking involved, and it's not as easy. Like we wanted to make it as holistic as possible. So yeah, just in closing though, I just want to say, thanks for everything. Would have loved to have seen you in action. I actually, some of the things I designed with you in mind, I'm not going to lie. Because I knew like you get like, because you trained with us leading up to it because we didn't want to throw you in like as a newbie who wasn't, would get hit or kicked and then just crumble like, so often does to beginners, to take someone who hasn't sparred before and throw them in. Like I remember my first examples of sparring that I did, like, they were horrible. So we wanted to sort of acclimatize you a little bit to bring you up to speed so that, you were good to go and, you were prepared somewhat for it, with 6 months of training. So I was really excited to see you in it. It was just unfortunate, but I think, the addition of Craig's helped to fill that hole. And yeah, maybe in the future.
yeah, maybe in the future, man, for sure. No, like I was pretty gutted that that happened, and I was speaking to the doctor, and I told him like it looked like I've got this thing on, and he was very against that because of like the kind of physical, like not against
Yeah,
championship, against me competing based off the injury that I had. But
yeah,
um, yeah, no, I was pretty gutted to not be a part of it. I had a lot of fun and like in the training and the sparring and learning a lot too. Like it was a whole different world that like I hadn't really like explored like that. So I think it was a really good experience. I'm always open to those new experiences, but no, that was really really cool. I had a really good time training with yourself, Ben, and Adrian, and everyone in between.
yeah.
Um, it was a really good experience, and I'm always looking forward to that stuff. Hopefully in the future. So
Yeah, no worries, and we hope it helps you out one day with your security work and things like that. So
yeah,
again, thanks
so
heaps. Appreciate it, and yeah, thanks for being a part of it now.
no, thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me. Had a blast, honestly. So
No worries, my pleasure.
all right, man.